for that very warm welcome. And as I was listening to you tell the story about that the drive down Africa that I did in 1981, I sort of was thinking to myself, what was I thinking back then? Because it really was a group of 8 of us. We just all finished and graduated from Oxford, and we got together and we went to an Army surplus auction in Nottingham, and we bought 2 Bedford RL troop transporters. And one of the colleagues on the trip his father had a big farm in Cambridge, and we went out there and spent a number of weeks tearing one of the trucks down and getting spare parts, and then using the other one as our main transport vehicle. And again, we drove from London down to Cape Town, and as I look back, it's really a trip that one really couldn't take today. Algeria, Niger, northern Nigeria, Central African Republic, southern Sudan. I mean, these are all places where it's not a trip that you'd want to take today. And I think it's really a testament to the adage that you got to sort of grab the bull by the horns when you can. Take the opportunity when you can, because you never know when you're going to be able to take it again. But the real hero in this is my father, because he's a very avid Rotarian. Huge follower of the 4-way test, and he used to always talk to me about the 4-way test as I was growing up. And when we got to Harare around Christmas time in 1981, we sold the truck in Harare, and then I hitchhiked from Zimbabwe down to Cape Town. And I really wanted to get to Latin America. I wanted to learn Spanish. America was becoming a much more culturally diverse country. I sort of saw the writing on the wall, and Spanish was going to become a much more important language as our country developed. And I didn't have any money. I had a tiny little backpack and about $50. And I said, how do I get to Latin America? And in Malawi, in Cape Maclear, on the lake, we ran into some South Africans, and they told me about this yacht race that would go every 3 years from Cape Town to Uruguay. And I said, okay, there we go. There's a chance to get to Latin America. And one of the guys I had rode with at Oxford, his father was South African, and his father was a banker in Cape Town. And so when I got there, I went and visited McPenny's father, and he happened to be a member of the yacht club where the yacht race left from. So he got me into the club, and I spent the day before the race going from yacht to yacht, trying to get on as a crew member. And I had a very good opening line, because I had come up to these skippers and say, listen, I just drove in from London, and I was just wondering if you had if you needed a crew member. And then we go into the whole song and dance. What do you mean you drove in from London? And I give him the story. But these are largely professional crews. It's a very serious event. So I showed up the day of the race with my little backpack, and just kind of hanging out about 2 hours before the race. And one of the skippers came up to me and said, didn't I see you yesterday? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, one of my guys got drunk last night, fell off the boat and hurt his back. We need somebody right now. You sailed before? And I really hadn't. I said, sure, absolutely. And he goes, come on. And so I called Johannesburg and had a friend there, and I said, can you call my father? And let them know that I'm on this yacht race. And so I'm forever thankful to my father for the cool, calm head he had when that friend called him and said, Mr. Hewko, you don't know me, but your son just got on a yacht race about 2 hours ago with 5 South Africans he's never met before. But he's promised to call you in 30 days if and when he gets to Uruguay. And as I think back now, I go, my God, that 4-way test, I certainly didn't apply it there in terms of being fair to all concerned. I do give him credit for hanging in there, and I do give him credit for supporting me on that, because it really was a life-changing event, just as participation in Rotary is a life-changing event for many of us here today. Thank you, Elaine, for, again, that very, very kind invitation to be here at this incredible Far West Pets, and really to your leadership team for an outstanding job. I've been to many pets throughout the world, and I have to tell you, without a doubt, this is one of the best in the world. So congratulations. It's great to see past presidents Cliff and Matt here, two giants in the history of Rotary, 2 great Rotary presidents, and you have truly, both of you, made a tremendous mark on our great organization. Director Brad, doing a superb job of representing your zone on the Rotary Board of Directors. The past Director John Blount, does such a great job of producing these Far West Pets, and who was the chair of the executive committee that first hired me back in 2011. So I really want to thank you, John, and most days.
We want to thank you.
And the board, really, for having the confidence in hiring me as your General Secretary, but most importantly for your friendship and your counsel through the years. So thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. And to the district governors and the district governors-elect, district governors nominee and assistant governors, thank you for your commitment and service to Rotary and to your fellow Rotarians. And of course, I'm most delighted to be able to address you, the president-elects, who, as past President Rick noted last night, represent the key leadership group in Rotary. Now, as you know, I've just completed 4.5 years as your General Secretary. And I must say, it has been an absolutely extraordinary experience. And as Lane mentioned, it's been an incredible honor to be able to lead the almost 600 employees at our world headquarters in Evanston and the other 200 secretariat employees we have in our 7 international offices around the world. You know, we have a terrific staff at the Secretariat who are dedicated to helping you, the Rotarians, carry out the mission of our great organization. In fact, several of them are here at this PETS, and I'd urge you to get to know them and reach out to them, because we really, at the Secretariat, are here to support you and the great work that you do. Now, one of the privileges of being your General Secretary is that I've had the opportunity over the last 4.5 years to really travel the Rotary world. I've been at many institutes. I've visited all of our international offices, district conferences, PETS trainings, Rotary Foundation events, club meetings. And I must say that the more I get to know Rotary, the more I am in awe, simply in awe, of what our great organization does. What Rotary and you, its members, have been able to achieve over the past 100+ years is simply incredible. It has also been enormously satisfying to be able to oversee and participate in a number of initiatives and projects that will be critical to Rotary's success in the coming years and decades, and which build, I think, on 2 unique features of our organization. And I think these are features that truly make our organization unique and put it perhaps into a universe of one. Now, the first is we represent what I like to call the intersection between commerce and cause. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that allow you to network professionally. And there are many that allow you to get involved in community service and to make a difference in the world. Yet I think Rotary is unique in that it brings together both of these opportunities. And as I said, the intersection between commerce and cause. Now, the second feature is that Rotary is both uniquely local and global at the same time. And so being a Rotarian allows one to get involved in some terrific local projects and to make a true impact in your community. But being a Rotarian also means taking part in large international projects, being part of a large network of like-minded professionals to be able to tackle significant global issues such as the eradication of polio. And so the question then arises, how do we take advantage of these unique attributes? And what do we need to do as an organization to ensure that we continue to grow, prosper, and stay relevant in today's changing world, where technology and other factors are changing the way in which humans interact and do business? And so what I'd like to do is raise with you four calls to action for you to consider as you embark on your presidential year on July 1st, and as you work to implement President-elect John Germ's theme of Rotary serving humanity. So the first call to action has to do with our signature corporate initiative, which, as you know, is the eradication of polio. And at lunch, we heard an extraordinary presentation from Ann Hussey. We heard her powerful polio story. And as I was listening to her speak, I couldn't help but think that it was Rotary, as Brad mentioned, it was Rotary, a nonprofit, not a government agency, not a multilateral institution, not a ministry, that had the audacity, and that's the right word that you used, Brad, the audacity to say, we are going to eradicate disease from the face of the earth. And as you know, only one other disease has ever been eradicated, and that is smallpox. As Ann mentioned, from the 125 countries that had polio back in 1985. Today, just 2, Afghanistan and Pakistan, are countries where the wild polio virus has never been stopped. And again, as she mentioned, to date there have only been five cases in the world in Pakistan. And so we truly are at a place right now where that 5th case of polio that occurred in Pakistan could very well be the last case of polio that we ever see. And so we really, really are this close to making history and ridding the world of this terrible disease. And what's even more extraordinary, and Brad alluded to this as well, and President Robbie makes this very often in his speeches. Not only were we the instigators, the inspiration for this, not only were we the fundraisers, not only were we the advocates and the boots on the ground, but we did all of this in our spare time. But as we heard from Ann Lee, we need continued funding and dedication to get us across the finish line. And as you know, polio eradication is a 2-step process. First, we have to stop the spread of the wild polio disease, virus, and then we continue vaccinating for a number of years, and if we see no cases of polio, we certify the world as polio-free. And Rotary is in this game until we certify the world as being polio-free. And so to get us to that finish line, the new polio endgame strategy contemplates that we're still going to need an additional $1.5 billion to get us to eradication and to get us to certification. And so to do our part in closing that funding gap, we signed an agreement with the Gates Foundation several years ago where they're going to match us 2 to 1, as many of you know, 2 to 1 for every dollar we raise and spend on polio in a given calendar year, up to $35 million a year. So if we raise $35 million, we get another $70 million from the Gates Foundation. And this number of $105 million is extremely important. It wasn't just chosen out of a hat. We felt that it was important for us to have at least $100 million in play in any given year because much of what we do is to advocate with governments. The United States government is one of the largest, if not the largest, government contributor to the polio eradication effort. And so when we're on the Hill talking with members of Congress, we want to be able to say, not only are we talking the talk, we're walking the walk. And Rotary is contributing $105 million every year to get us across the finish line. And so together with the Gates match, we'll have raised, over the course of this 5-year agreement, $525 million, which closes the funding gap by $1 billion. And again, that may seem like a lot of money, but if you take $35 million divided by 1.2 million Rotarians, that works out to $30 a year over that 5-year period. And I can't imagine a better investment where $1 given to polio gets you an immediate 200% return. And Barbara mentioned the Tour de Tucson, the bike ride, perfect example. It started out as a small ride 7-8 years ago. We've now been able to raise $14.5 million, and that's in large part a result of the incredible generosity of Rotarians around the world, but also the leveraging power of the agreement that we have with the Gates Foundation. So my first call to action is to do all that you can in your club and in your district to continue to raise the funds we need to get us across the finish line and leave a gift to the world that will last as long as mankind inhabits this earth. And when we rid the world of this terrible disease, and we will, I very much believe that Rotary deserves to get the Nobel Peace Prize. And that is why we need to continue to improve and step up our communications and PR efforts to ensure that Rotary gets the due credit it deserves for this historic endeavor. Now, the second call to action has to do with the Rotary Foundation's new grant model, what used to be called Future Vision and what is now called Rotary Grants. Now, the model went live in all 538 of our districts on July 1st, 2013. And I have to tell you, I'm extremely proud of how the organization handled this incredible, this huge endeavor. It wasn't easy. Because put simply, Rotary Grants, in my view, is the future of our great foundation. And it also is a great concept for your clubs and your districts for 3 reasons. First, the philosophy behind the new grant model is to encourage clubs and districts to do projects that are more focused on 6 distinct areas of focus, and to do projects that are larger, scalable, more impactful, with measurable results, and perhaps most importantly, sustainable. In other words, the goal is to get more bang for our Rotary buck, to get a better return, a greater return on our investment in terms of impact and sustainability. In other words, what we're hoping to do is to solve 100% of one problem rather than 1% of 100 problems. But I think to do this effectively, I would suggest and urge you to link up with other clubs and districts. Pool your resources so that you can do these projects that are larger, that are scalable, that have higher impact, and are more sustainable. Now, the second reason is that successful implementation of the model at the club and district level will result in better public relations and greater visibility for our organization, for your clubs, and for the district. And this, in turn, I think will help with membership as we become even better known for the fantastic projects that we do. This will drive more membership, which in turn will drive more support for our great foundation. It creates a virtual circle, positive, spiraling, uphill circle, both for the clubs and for the districts, for Rotary as an organization, and for our foundation. And the third reason is that Rotary Grants is important because it will make Rotary as an organization internationally more attractive to outside funding sources. Because in addition to getting more bang for our buck and better recognition and public relations at the club and district level, we have to realize that there is a tremendous competition in the world today for funding from outside funding sources. And our current model currently relies on two sources of funding: the Gates Foundation and the extraordinary generosity of Rotarians around the world. But with polio soon to be eradicated, that Gates funding is going to dry up. And over the last decade, we've seen that it's been difficult to increase membership, which is our core base of support for the foundation. And so it seems to me we need to begin aggressively thinking about turning to corporations and other foundations that have the money, but not the resources, not the ability to deliver the projects that we have. But to do this, it seems to me we have to demonstrate to them that we should be getting the money from them. They're not going to give us the money because we're nice people, although we're tremendously nice people. They're going to give us the money because we can demonstrate that a dollar given to Rotary gets better impact, a better rate of return, a better return on investment than giving that same dollar to another organization. And so that's why it's extremely important from a global perspective that we successfully implement this model to make ourselves more attractive to those outside funding sources. But for this model ultimately to work, it really needs to be a bottom-up process. It has to be a product, and it has to be something that helps the clubs and the districts and is embraced by the clubs and the districts. And so what the TRF Foundation is doing is that the Programs Committee of the Foundation has been asked to look at the grant model, to do a comprehensive evaluation. In fact, I would say it's one of the most comprehensive evaluations that the organization has ever undertaken. And as a result of this evaluation, which is currently underway, the model will be revisited, relooked at, and tweaked and recalibrated as needed to reflect the feedback and the needs of the Rotary clubs and districts. But in the end, the new grant model means that we, as Rotarians, need to be ready to adapt. Not everything that was funded in the past will be funded in the future. Of course, under the district grants, there's much more flexibility to be able to fund projects that may not qualify in the 6 areas of focus under the global grants. Not everyone will be happy, and there'll have to be some flexibility. But it seems to me that we need to give Rotary grants a chance, and with the ongoing evaluation, we will make the adjustments that are needed to make the model even stronger. And so that is why my second call to action, and that is my second call to action, for you to understand, utilize, and support the new grant model, as it is, again, in my view, perhaps the most important initiative we've undertaken as an organization in the last 20 years after polio. Now, my third call to action has to do with membership. And here I'd like to build on the words that we heard from Director Brad. Perhaps I can start by being somewhat frank with you. We do have a membership issue in North America. Worldwide, our membership has been flat at around 1.2 million over the past 12 years. Every year we attract about 100,000 new members, but every year we lose 100,000 members. In some ways people can say that some of our membership issues are a function of retention. But we have a particularly acute problem here in North America. Currently, North American Rotarians make up about 30% of Rotarians worldwide. If current trends continue, we could easily see that dropping to about 15% in the next 10 or 15 years. Our average age is getting progressively older in some parts of the the country. And again, that is a testament in some ways to the passion of Rotarians, but over the long haul, it really isn't a recipe for longevity. And so in recognition of these issues, the board has adopted a one-size-does-not-fit-all approach. It has authorized $3 million to be spent on the creation and implementation of regional membership plans. And this has been a huge priority for President Ravi and for President-elect John, and they've shown great leadership on this issue. And I know that they can count on each and every one of you to support this key initiative. Now, going forward, we do face some challenges. Let's take the example of two key demographics with two perhaps very different needs. And of course, as an organization, we need to target all demographics and go after the whole panoply of demographics as members. But I think there are two that are particularly important and right for Rotary. One is the recently retired, or as someone mentioned here, the baby boomers. And on the other end, the up-and-coming young professionals, future leaders. You know, the recently retired bring tremendous expertise, passion, energy, money, and time to the table. Fantastic Rotarians. And the young professionals, the future leaders, they are the future of Rotary. They're our future leaders, our future standard bearers. And yet these two groups very often might have vastly different needs and expectations. You know, I have a 22-year-old daughter. She and I do not live on the same planet. She operates in the world of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, technology. I think any of you who have a 22-year-old daughter or son or grandchild know that if you try to give them a phone call, zero chance you're going to get an answer. You send them a text message or Instagram thing or tweet, you'll hear from them immediately. They live in a different world. In Lisbon, at the convention in Lisbon, I had the privilege of meeting with the head of the European Rotary movement. And as we were meeting, I asked him, what is the one thing you're most proud of during your year as head of the Rotaractors in Europe? And he said, you know, John, we had a convention of Rotaractors in Europe, 1,000 participants, and we organized that convention without one single physical meeting. And so this is the space that the younger generation lives in. And it seems to me that if we want to attract young professionals or our future leaders, we need to cater to what they want, not what we think they want or think that they should want, what we wanted when we were their age, but what they actually want. Because as Brad so rightly mentioned, you know, we have to realize that we are selling a product. And what is the product that we're selling? We're selling the club experience. It all begins and ends with the club and what the club offers its members. And we're seeing, unfortunately, that in some parts of North America, people are either not buying our product or they stop using it after they try it. And so the challenge is whether one can, with a one-size-fits-all product, appeal to these disparate demographic groups, such as the recently retired and the young professionals and everyone in between. And so I would suggest that we begin thinking about offering perhaps a menu of products, each appealing perhaps to a different group. Because young people are generally interested in causes. They want to make an immediate impact. And yet what the young professionals want may not be what the recently retired want or are looking for. And so the challenge is to reconcile these two poles and find mechanisms that find for lack of a better word, a sweet spot that's able to make Rotary attractive to these very important constituents and everything in between. So what do we need to do? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. We can make Rotary whatever we want it to be. We can have 1.2 million members. We can have 750,000 members. We can have 2 million members. We can grow, we can wither, we can continue to tread water. Again, none of this is written in stone or legally mandated. And I'm sure there are many Rotarians out there who are very comfortable just where we are, and some that perhaps don't care much, and some that would like us to change. And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But I'm personally in the camp that we need to grow, and we need to thoughtfully change, particularly in North America. And I'd like to see a Rotary that has at least 2 million members. Again, not because it'd be very cool to be the General Secretary of an organization of 2 million members, and it clearly would be, but because a Rotary of 2 million will be able to do just that much more to make the world a better place. Think about polio. Think about polio. We are going to change the world forever in 2019. Forever. How many human beings can go to their grave knowing that they have played a significant role in changing the world for the better for as long as mankind exists? And so if 1.2 million Rotarians working together can eradicate polio, can you imagine what we can do if we were 2 or 3 or 4 million strong? Now that goal may sound crazy, but I'm sure in 1985 or 1979, the goal of eradicating polio sounded crazy. But if we don't dream and strive for the seemingly impossible, we will never reach our full potential. And so if one shares that dream, or even half of that dream, what should we be doing? And again, there's no right or wrong answer, and reasonable Rotarians will differ, because as we know, 1.2 million Rotarians, 1.3 million points of view. But my personal opinion, and I realize that I'm starting to venture onto some thin ice here, is that we need to start aggressively thinking out of the box. In fact, with respect to the millennials, they like to say that for them there is no box. And so we need to begin to think differently, to think innovatively. Not in a crazy way, not in an irrational way, but in a thoughtful, methodical way. And in my view, there is no better place to do that than here in California, in Silicon Valley, in the 9 districts represented here, in one of the most innovative places on earth. And as part of that process, in my humble opinion, we should consider putting everything on the table for discussion, starting with perhaps our governance structure and ending with some of our most hallowed traditions. Perhaps in North America and elsewhere, we carry out a whiteboard exercise and think about whether in today's world, with today's realities, we would structure ourselves in the way we do and offer the product that we do. And again, as part of that process, I would suggest that no idea is too crazy and no tradition is too sacred. And again, the result may differ from country to country and from culture to culture. So in my humble opinion, we need to be willing to do things differently, to change the way we operate. With respect to governance, one of the critical challenges I think we face is continuity at all levels, RI, district, and club. The yearly change we have in leadership has its tremendous strengths. It brings new blood, new energy, new ideas, new creativity to the organization every year. But it has one big potential weakness, and that is that many of the challenges that we face as an organization will now require 5, 6, 10 years of dogged, strategic persistence. And simply we cannot afford, in that kind of a world, the zigging and zagging that our governance structure often results in. I think we see it at all levels of the organization. I'm sure that you see it at the club and district level. And here, perhaps I'm on really thin ice, I'd suggest that we begin to change our culture and refrain from using such terms as my year, my goals, and shift to, for example, my club's goals, my district's goals, and my role in implementing my club's 5-year or 10-year strategic plan. And so I urge you to work with your predecessor and your successors as a unified team to put together and then execute a multi-year strategy. And what might elements of that strategy look like? For me, and I think Brad mentioned this as well in his comments, it comes down to the value proposition and relevance that our product, which again is the club experience, is offering to current and potential members. You know, there's often talk that the younger generation doesn't have time to participate in Rotary. I strongly disagree with that statement, because every survey that's done indicates that the younger generations are more interested in giving and in making a difference than many previous generations. But again, they're generally interested in causes. They're interested in making an immediate impact. So they do have the time to participate in Rotary if we can offer them a value proposition and a product that is better and more relevant than that offered by the competition. And so at the club level, I'd suggest that we take a hard look at our weekly attendance requirements and focus instead on the concept perhaps of perfect engagement. You know, there are clubs in Southern Ohio that came to see me, and they've implemented a process of perfect engagement. Every quarter, every member of the club has to accumulate so many engagement points, and you can't get them by coming to meetings. And they have found that attendance in meetings is much greater, and they're able to retain members because they're engaging them. And the focus isn't so much on attendance, but on perfect engagement. I heard today at one of the sessions about the Passport Club, which was established in April of last year in Sacramento in District 5180. Now, this Passport Club was really meant to deal with retention and offer flexibility for younger and newer members. And the way it works is quite ingenious. They pay their Rotary district dues, but they have no club dues. They only meet physically 4 times a year, but each member has either to do 40 hours per year of community service with another club, at a club fundraiser, club project, or they contribute $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation instead of the 40 hours. They currently have 78 members. My understanding is that next week they're going to be up to 80. And so what this is an example of is an innovative approach that may or may not work in the long term. But at the end of the day, you have to shoot to score. And so I salute District 5180 for trying something different. And I very much hope that these Passport Clubs work because it provides another menu, another product that we can offer to the marketplace. So we need to look at innovative club and district due structures. It seems to me we perhaps need to return some of the focus to networking, which at the end of the day was really the original and driving reason that Paul Harris established Rotary. Brad talked about the previous comments. Younger people are looking for mentoring, and that's exactly one of the qualities and skills that we bring to the table. I think we need to do a better job of using social media. We're not too bad. We're better than many NGOs, but we still have a long ways to go. Let's look at the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, where many of us are getting dumped on, dumping ice on each other. They raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Whoever had that clever idea, and they raised hundreds of millions of dollars for the cause, and it cost them zero. It cost them absolutely zero. And again, it shows the power of social media, and if it's used effectively, the difference that it can make in the world. And finally, it seems to me we need to focus on our incredible alumni network. You know, there are literally hundreds of thousands of individuals who've been touched by Rotary through our many programs, Youth Exchange, RILA, Interact, Rotaract, and others. And you know, it never ceases to amaze me as I travel the world and represent Rotary at various international conferences, how often I will run into a minister or a Fortune 500 CEO or a head of state even. When I say I'm with Rotary, they say, oh, Rotary, unbelievable. You know, I was a youth exchange student in Chile for 3 months when I was in high school, and it changed my life forever. I am who I am today thanks to that youth exchange program that I did with Rotary. Now, of course, get, oh, this is fantastic. And I say, so, have you been in touch with Rotary since then? No. Do you have any idea what Rotary's up to? No. Not a clue. But they do know that Rotary changed their lives forever. And so we have a huge pool of potential Rotarians out there. It's almost like shooting fish in a barrel. And another big part of that, of course, is our Rotaractors, a huge source of potential members that we're missing. Now, again, we have some old data, 7, 8 years ago, that talked about 5% of Rotaractors becoming Rotarians. I'm sure that number has now increased. It's not that low. But it's still much, much lower than it needs to be. And so I salute President Mike John for really putting a focus next year on how do we get Rotaractors into Rotary, and how do we not lose them, and how do we improve their glide path to become Rotarians. Because it seems to me we are leaving a great deal of membership on the table through our lost, vast army of alumni. And so Rotary International, what we're doing is putting considerable resources over the next few years into improving our global alumni data bank and really trying to professionalize our work with alumni in the same way that U.S. universities do that. And so again, there's no right or wrong answer here as we address the membership issue. For me, what matters is whether it works. Does what we are doing lead to vibrant, growing clubs? And so if the traditional way of doing things works for your club, by all means, carry on. But if not, I urge you to think out of the box. Or even better, perhaps be a millennial and act as if there is no box. Because in some ways, rules only make sense if they make sense. And we all know that the definition of futility is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But in the end, we can have the best plans, the best strategies, the best PR, and the best branding, but it still takes members to get members. And we all know that getting members happens at the retail level, one person at a time. And so, if you never ask them, they'll never join. But they'll only join if Rotary is relevant to them and to their lives and to their aspirations. And they will stay if the reality of the experience meets the promise of the brand. And that's why, in my mind, engagement is key. Engage them from day one, have the reality of their experience from day one, match the promise of the brand, and you'll have hooked a Rotarian for life. And so, in this third call to action to you, I ask that you take up the challenge offered by our great founder, Paul Harris, who wrote, "If Rotary is to realize its proper destiny, it must be evolutionary at all times, revolutionary on occasions." So please be voices for doing everything we can in Rotary, not just everything that's comfortable or easy or represents the way things have always been done. And if you do so, you will not only be great club presidents, you'll be uncommon presidents who will take your clubs and our great organization to even greater success and greater service. Now, the fourth and final call to action has to do with our new visual identity and the initiative to strengthen Rotary and our brand. Several years ago, we engaged a really top-drawer firm out of New York, Siegel & Gale, to help us step back and rethink our brand. Because, we have a great story to tell, but very often we need to tell it more simply and consistently. Because the great works we do are at times not necessarily matched by the public perception of Rotary. And so you'll see the new visual identity, of course, on our website. We've put in place a brand center in Rotary.org and My Rotary that allows anyone to go online and download the various templates, the fonts, the various materials that you'll need to comply or to have your visual identity match the current brand structure. And with this, we hope to get a much more unified look and feel and consistent message as we go around the Rotary world. So I would ask you to please do all that you can to use the new visual identity, and again, to help us create a more consistent look and feel worldwide as Rotary expands to different places. But the visual identity is really about 15% of what we're trying to achieve through this brand initiative. The other 85% has to do with the way in which we message, the way we message internally and the way we message to the outside world. So under the new scheme, the master lens, the lens through which certainly the communications coming out of Evanston will all be filtered through 6 words. Rotary is about joining leaders, exchanging ideas, and taking actions. And so as part of that messaging, we'll also be talking less about the what and the how, and more about the why. So let's take the foundation brochures as an example. Historically, we've talked a lot about, in our materials, how do you give to the foundation? So that's now all going to change. We're going to be talking about why somebody should give to the foundation. So that's what's going to engage folks with our foundation. On membership issues, we're going to talk less about what Rotary is and more about why you should join. And so you'll see the new visual look and identity and feel in the messaging again, in the messaging materials that come out of the Secretary. But again, we have to remember, we can brand all we want. At the end of the day, the experience when somebody walks into the club, the reality of that experience has to meet the promise of the brand. And finally, on the visual identity and the branding piece, it seems to me as part of our new messaging strategy to the outside world, we need to do more to speak to a non-Rotary audience. As an organization, we do a tremendous job of talking to ourselves. And that's very important. We need to do that. We need to motivate, we need to inspire, we need to inform our members. But it seems to me that we also need to do a better job of speaking to the non-Rotary audience. So I would urge you to begin thinking about organizing events that are geared for non-Rotarians. Partner with a local university, Cal or Stanford. I won't get into which one is the preferred. Brad did in a moment of weakness indicate that Stanford was probably the preferred choice. But partner with a local university. Hold a symposium, a half-day seminar on one of the 6 areas of focus where your club or your district has some expertise. Bring in outside experts have a few Rotarians participate as moderators or panelists, but it's really to create a halo, a vision of Rotary as a thought leader on some of these key issues that are facing the world. And we've started doing that in Evanston. We now hold a Rotary International Speaker Series, where we have 6 events during the course of the year, one for each of the 6 areas of focus. We bring in outside experts from the Chicagoland area. We'll partner with Northwestern University or with the University of Chicago or other organizations and really gear these events to a non-Rotary audience so they can come in and learn about Rotary, learn about the great issues that the world is facing through the activities of our great organization. So, 4th call to action is to use the new brand visual identity, the new voice in your messaging, and perhaps most importantly, to think about channeling your communications and events efforts to a non-Rotary audience. And finally, let me invite all of you to Evanston. As you know, that's where our world headquarters are. We own an 18-story building in Evanston. We use half for our own purposes. We lease the other half out. A lot of great things for you to see when you come. So come with your clubs, come with your districts. Let us know in advance. We'll set up a tour for you. We'll set up briefing sessions for you. And then participate in the Rotary Historical Tour. Go down to Chicago 1 on Tuesday lunchtime and have a makeup lunch. Then go visit the Paul Harris home on the south side of Chicago. The Rotarians in the Chicagoland area are in the process of renovating the home. They hope to have it finished next year to the state it was in 1947 when Paul died. And then about a mile south of his home is his grave. And what's interesting is he's buried in the same cemetery that the founder of Lions is buried. The graves are about 100 yards apart from each other. So even in death, they're competing with each other. But I must say that Paul's grave is a heck of a lot nicer than the guy from Lions. So again, there's a great opportunity to bring Rotarians to Evanston and really experience the history of Rotary over the course of a weekend or over the course of a few days. So again, thank you all very much for the opportunity to be at this absolutely extraordinary PETS, because you, the President-elects of these 9 districts, are and will be leading the charge for thoughtful change. You are the ones who are going to be a gift to the world, and you will be key to ensuring that Rotary continues to grow and prosper and continues to serve humanity. And we at the Rotary Secretariat will be there for you in every way that we can. And I know that I speak for every one of us on the Rotary International staff when I say how proud we feel to walk through the doors of One Rotary Center every morning, knowing that our work supports your work, and that your work is changing the world for the better, day by day, community by community. Thank you very much.